thought much of them up till now, you know. I never had much, I saw a lot of young kids going out on vacations, getting other people to pay for them, is what it seemed to me anyway. I'm not knocking down anybody who's been on short-term missions, but everybody has their own experience. But when I heard about this mission, I heard about the dedication to really being a help and really serving, I said, I think I want to go on that. And I did, and I am so blessed that I did. We worked, and we were really tired. You saw Steve and sleeping on the couch there. That was after a long day of him putting in. We put in about 10 hours a day there, and we were very tired at the end of the day. And I was really surprised to see how blessed the people were, and how surprised they were at the amount of work that got done. And so I thank the Lord for that. Jeremy and I worked together. We looked at the task, and we decided we needed to team up. So Jeremy and I worked on the wall, in the basement, in the exercise room, and on the science lab. And we're the Lord blessed, and we're happy how the product came out.
When I was first asked about this trip by my parents, I wasn't 100% sure that I wanted to go, because I knew that since I was going to be missing a whole week of school, although nice, would have ended up falling behind in quite a lot of schoolwork, and I knew my grades would suffer. I knew my mental and physical body would suffer because of all the catch-up work that I would have to do. But then I thought to myself, and I realized that this was not just about me. This was about more than me and more than our church. This was about a mission to help the missionaries that are doing God's work in Mexico. And so I decided it would be best to put aside my own self-interest and to dedicate an entire week's worth of work into helping the people in Mexico. And not only did I end up feeling accomplished by the amount of work that we were able to do, but I also felt accomplished in being able to experience a new culture, even if it was for just a short period of time. And I also got to establish and strengthen relationships with people in the church that I never really got to talk to before. And so for these reasons, I'm thankful that I was able to go on the trip, even if my schoolwork ended up suffering for it.
Although I think we had daily battles to get calculus and physics done. And Greek, we feel like we got to get Greek, calculus, and physics. Everything else can wait.
Not only had the 3 teams that were there really work hard, and I was amazed at these guys.
I felt really blessed that I had an opportunity to participate with these great people. I got to know them better. It was really an experience, and we really did get a lot done, more than I think they expected us to. And I would definitely do it again. The accommodations there were amazing. I've heard some other places people had gone on trips, the accommodations weren't nearly as good. I think we were pampered, so that was really nice. But I'm really glad I got a chance to do this with these fine people.
Well, before Mexico, I'd never actually been out of the country before, so I really had no idea what to expect, but I was definitely expecting it to be hotter. It really wasn't that hot. But yeah, it rained a lot and we got hail. But yeah, we got a lot done. I worked on the desks and painting the roof with the sealant. So I helped with that. I also helped move stuff around, carry stuff. I was blessed to get to know the Canes better and get to know their kids and everyone else that went on the trip with us. I would like to thank you all that donated to help to make this possible. Thank you very much. Why did we start in the middle?
So Joseph mentioned the roof, and we thank everybody for their prayers as well, because that was a really big deal to be able to get the roof done. We were worried concerned that wouldn't happen, because they were having unusual, unseasonal rain there, and the Lord managed to give us a few good days in a row where we were able to get it done, have time to dry, and it just worked out perfectly. So thank you for your prayers for that, and the Lord for His blessing there.
I was blessed to work with a team of 5 people total. We took on the 50 desks, and Joseph and I took 5 sheets of plywood and a format, template. And we transformed that into 50 of the tabletop pieces. From there, Samuel and Joseph painted all the edges with a little help from Mary in that regard. We also realized that there was a secondary issue. We need some support. We have 3 different formats of frames that we were going to mount these to, so we had to come up with a way to properly support them. And Paul jumped in on that. Thank you, Paul. And so we were painting, we were creating unknown supports, and then everything had to be bolted together, and 3 coats of paint were finalized on it, with Mary getting 2 of them, Paul getting the 3rd coat on there. So that was our project that took all 5 days, and it was interesting. It was also interesting to note that everyone was feeling a time crunch. Every team that was working on projects would spend one day thinking, okay, we got this. And then there'd be a day where, we may not be able to finish this. And there were different stresses, and you could feel it throughout the entire week. And it was a privilege to be with you all, and it was really amazing to see it all come together. It was quite an honor.
No, I'll just talk loud. Don't like microphones. So my duties were chief, cook, bottle washer, nurse, and painter. I thank Stephen for these. I can't imagine what my hands would look like right now if I did not have these, and I am keeping these forever. If you had told me 2 years ago that I would be going on a mission trip, I think I would really have a lot of doubts about that. But you never know when a situation is put before you, what God sets in your heart, and I don't think it should be discarded. I think it is an opportunity to serve God here on earth and to further advance His kingdom. The opportunity to work with these beautiful people is something I will never, ever forget. It has profoundly impacted me, and I don't know where Pastor John is, but that mission trip to Togo and the need for a nurse, I am already there. Wow. So I found myself saying a lot during the mission trip and sharing with my husband the Bible verse, Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. Because, as you said, there were periods, especially midweek, when you look at what's before you and whether you're going to be able to complete it, but God came through.
Well, so I've prayed since we got back that if I ever go on a missions trip again, that I get to travel with Mary Kunzig. It's the only trip I've ever gained weight on. And also our dear brother, Stephen Hodney, who we wish could be here. He is such a hard worker and so much fun to be with. Just what a joy. So 2 thoughts real quick. Was so pleased when we arrived to realize that this was not a place like I'd been to some other times, and we didn't know what we would find as far as tools go. Having been in a business for a lot of years that needed all sorts of cool tools, didn't know how we would get this job done. But there, not only was this facility nicer than we expected, but it was also wonderfully equipped. And I do think that says something about an organization, maybe. I was never able to keep my tools neat and clean, but in this warehouse or in this workshop, which was fabulous, everything had its place. Every tool was right where it should be. Everything we touched was sharpened and ready and all set to go. It almost seemed like they had made that preparation for quite a long time. And not only did it help us get our job done, but I could not help but just draw the comparison that that facility itself, the school, is just a tool in the hands of the church there. And it's one that the body of Christ uses to equip the work of God that's happening there in that area. And it is a blessing to get to help them sharpen their tool, because the school is one that is serving the entire country, as Jeremy talked about at first. And so it is with our church too, right? Just a tool. And, as we all are. But one thing that struck me, I think, the most is that here we have these teachers and students who are in a much bigger city than many of the other missionaries actually work in. You saw a picture of this one lady who lived in a village. We got to meet her. But so much of the work of the mission takes place far from civilization, often very remote circumstances, out yonder, as they would far away. And here this school is nice and clean and well kept, and everyone's provided for. But we heard their story. So you saw the picture of the big guy from Northern Ireland married to the science teacher, and Steve, who was our tour guide. Both of those guys came to Mexico together from Colombia, where they were there at a time when a very similar school, nice and equipped and well cared for, was taken over by rebels and held hostage. And it wasn't just these two guys, but it was also Brad Kane himself and his sister, who one day opened the door to find men with machine guns who came in and held them hostage. And it did not end well. It was a long hostage crisis. The two teachers that they all knew and loved ended up being killed after a long period of captivity. And these guys are still carrying the pain and the weight of that. But it's just a reminder that even still, even at this place where God has called them to work, that doesn't seem like a front line. They still sacrifice greatly for what the Lord had called them to do. And again, to draw the comparison, even us still. Here we might not be front line, we might not be remote, might not be in danger, so to speak, but God still calls us to sacrifice in whatever He's called us to do. It's a great lesson.
When I first heard of this mission trip, I was concerned of how hard I would work and if I would slack, but having the motivation and love of the people around me really encouraged me to push forward and get the job done. At the end, once it all paid off, I feel like the greatest thing to me was being able to think of how these students will use these things that we did, and it would make their life easier in school. That's what the greatest thing I liked.
Well, I didn't know how I would contribute. I'm great with VBS, but put me on a construction team, and I was thinking, yeah, I got nothing. I got no skills. But fortunately, I had a great jefe right here, and she taught me how to lay floors, so I got a fallback now. I can lay floors. Not only that, I feel like really I could probably lay floors anywhere, because if you could lay laminate flooring on floors that were not level against walls that were not square, I feel like we've pretty much done it all, right? There were canyons, yeah. I mean, it was definitely, yeah. I mean, it's a little floaty when you walk, but it's okay. So spent most of the week on our hands and knees. And, man, this one guy had these cushy gel knee things. I can't even tell. I'm way too old. Knee pads. I'm like way too old to be on my knees all week, up and down. But anyway, good workout and great new skill. But mostly, I mean, Steve mostly said what I was thinking. Just neat to know we're not front line or second line or third line or fourth line or fifth line. We're somewhere down there just helping to equip these guys to go out and do the work that we can't do in the villages and in the tribes. They've dedicated their entire lives. I think I just love Ethnos for that. These people commit for a lifetime of ministry in one area. And the dedication to be able to just sacrifice your whole life and future right there for one people group. Really neat to be able to feel like we're even just a teensy tiny part of all that goes on there. So that was awesome.
So at the very beginning, I did like a couple hours of floor work with you, and then I didn't do any more. So I'm just gonna say,
She's a gymnast.
I felt
for
really
crying
bad.
out loud.
I felt really bad for your guys' knees, but yeah. So before I went, I was also in the position that Beth was in, where I'm not skilled in construction, so I was like, I knew that I was going to be very dependent on other people to tell me things that I could do and how to do them. So I was very grateful when kind of at the last minute, Stephen ended up joining the group, and I got to work with him most of the time, and he was just super helpful to me in terms of giving me clear, instructions about what to do, and so I ended up feeling like I was very helpful. So that was cool. And I remember at the very beginning of the trip, it was like the first day that we got there, there were like three of us ladies in the room, in one of the rooms together, and at the end of the conversation, we prayed, and I just remember praying, because I know my own heart, I prayed that God would unite our whole team. And so then I felt like over the course of the whole time there, I really got to see God working in my heart and in other people's hearts, just to He really did. He brought us all much closer together, I felt. And with the Canes too, I think we did get, and with the Baxters and the other people who were there. It was cool to see that. And then it was kind of amazing to have the last thing that happened as we were leaving, like going in the airport. We got to see Steve witness to somebody, which it was a pretty amazing situation, because what had happened was when we arrived in Chihuahua at the airport, that's when we first met him. And he was like super excited. The guy at the airport was super excited about Steve's guitar. He just like was drawn to it, and he just wanted to see it and hear about it, and like so that's how the conversation started. And then like, I mean, yeah, I don't know if. Right, so then, like, we moved on with our lives. We did the work that we were there to do, and then on the way back, on the second time to the airport, I think we were, like, in a different spot, too. It's not even like we were in the same, we ran into the same guy, and so they reconnected and had a conversation, and this time, Steve gave his guitar to this man, and he signed it on the back. He asked him to sign it. He signed it on the back with scripture, and... Oh, yeah, or 5 times. Yeah, so he was like, because I think he was a Jehovah's Witness or something. Yeah, so he had to go to church 5 times to, yeah. So anyway, that was just a really cool, like, thing to end the trip, because it felt like, it was sort of like God saying, like, and now it's over. I don't know. It was just cool.
Piggybacking what she said, the neat thing about the guitar was that it was a left-handed guitar, so those are apparently quite rare, and this man is left-handed, and he can't find a left-handed guitar, so it was just perfect. And Steve really wanted to bring this guitar on the trip, but the Lord really wanted Steve to bring the guitar on the trip. So that was really a blessing, because I know how hard it is to part with something that's very valuable and precious to you, but it's just material, right? So, but that was a neat story. So in Mexico, Jeremy and I, leading up to the trip, we were discussing who's going to do what, how are we going to pair this person. We didn't know everybody's skills, their abilities. I knew what my skills were, my limitations. We knew what Jeremy's were.
and my father-in-law, but we're trying to figure everybody else out. So we get there, I have 3 floors, because I was put on the floor task, and I'm like, 3 floors by myself. I'm like, eek, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So I'm like, I have to connect with these ladies, and she's like, I can't do this. I'm like, oh, honey, you can. And I think it took her, 10 minutes to learn, like 10 minutes, and we were naming our tools, like malita, and what else? Square thingy, malita, mamita. Yeah. We call ourselves pizzeristas. That's not even a real word, but we made it up. We jammed to VeggieTales. Yeah. So we had yeah, that did happen. Stephen walked around on stilts for who knows what reason. The man's already 8 foot tall. He fell. Yeah. We forgot to put that one on the slide, but we had a great time fellowshipping together. It was neat for all of us to go on this trip and serve another community, another group of Christians, and through that we bonded in that work, because we were, it was like a taste of heaven, so to speak, because we were seeing what it's going to be like being around worshipers of God 24/7. We were together 24/7. I mean, we ate in the same house, we slept in the same house, we took baths in the same house, we worked in the same building. We were together night and day. We didn't depart at all. So we really got to feel that bond, and even the team in Mexico, they felt that same sadness when we left, and we felt sadness when we left them, and when we left each other. It was like, all right, we're not waking up and being together every day and serving, but as someone who's been involved with private education for many, many years, I was really taken back by the fact that these teachers, the principal, the assistant principals, they're all supported 100% by churches. So they're able to provide very affordable education for these missionaries because, people ask, well, why don't the wives just homeschool? Well, remember, to send missionaries out costs a lot of money and a lot of training. So if all the wives just stayed home and homeschooled, that would cut the amount of missionaries in half. And they really need the wives to help with the support. Not that they are doing the main work, but they do need them to help support. So if they had to homeschool, they wouldn't have any time to be a part of the mission. And so this school really helps both the husband and wife be a part of the mission. And it is just great that these parents could, send their children to a school that is God-centered and is teaching them, about Christ, teaching them all the stuff they need to know so that they too could go off and serve Christ someday, because that's very important. We don't want that to stop with the parents, and a lot of the kids do actually want to become missionaries, believe it or not, a lot of the children. And so that's very important to have that ministry there. And it was just really neat to see that they have some of the same struggles that we have here with our own private schools. I know those who've been involved. Principal has to teach math and has to teach computers. The assistant principal teaches history. The science teacher teaches Spanish. So they take on many hats to get the job done and to minister to these kids. And it was a real blessing to see that work go on. And, and I really didn't realize how much they needed to have support from the outside. I never thought of that before. And they kept telling us, you don't realize how we need to be ministered to as well. They need fellowship too. So yes, we got a lot of practical stuff done, but they're out in a mission field. They're away from family, away from friends, away from their homeland. And to have other Christians from their homeland, from come and spend time with them, they said was just a blessing to them. And I really am thankful we got to do that.
I just wanted to say, Jeremy did an awesome job leading this team, and we were so grateful for the amount of hours and the planning that he put into this. It was we just functioned so great as a team, and that's a lot thanks to his awesome leadership.
I really appreciate that. So I just want to close this time out and just say, you know, what a tremendous blessing, as everybody said, it was to be able to go and to serve with all these wonderful people. I was just thinking of the passage of Scripture where the Apostle Paul talks to the Philippians about what a blessing it was to receive their support that they had renewed for him, and just how that united him and the Philippians. And I actually won't take the time to read it right now because I know we're trying to wrap up, but I did want to just tell you thank you so much for your support for the school and for Brad and Shiloh, and for letting us be a practical way of expressing that support. So thank you, Brian. We really appreciate it.